welcome back to That Dad Guy. It's December 21st, 2023, and for me, it means I'm on vacation. Yay! Because tomorrow I've taken off as a personal day because my daughter Dea is getting her wisdom teeth out, so she needs some help with that, so I will be there for her for that. And then next week, the last week of December, I've taken off, so I don't have to go back to work until the new year, so now I can relax a little bit. My Christmas shopping is done. I haven't started Christmas baking yet, but that will happen. So I still have to go to the grocery store and get the supplies that I need for that. And it may be baking past Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, and that's all right too. There's a lot of food around that can be eaten, so I'm quite happy with what I'm doing to relax. Now, one of the things you do when you relax is read, and thanks to Lamont in Saskatchewan, he sent me this envelope, and last Friday I showed you it. It's got some beautiful stamps on the cover. Inside, he sent me some vintage postcards, so they're fantastic. I showed you those last Friday. But more importantly, he sent me this magazine. It came out in 1992. It has stories from days gone by. I showed you some of the recipes that were in there, read a couple of them off. There are personal ads. There are people looking for buy and sells. There are stories of how I first met, or memories of childhood. There are hobbies in here too. So it has been great kind of leafing through and reading some of these old messages, seeing some of the pictures that are in here. So I thought, what better thing to do than kind of go through a little bit of this with you guys. There are some limericks in here. A friend sent me through the mail a cup of my favorite hot ale. But it's empty, I cried. Then the mailman replied, well, it warmed me through rain, sleet, and hail. So as a mailman, I haven't done that, taken someone else's parcel, but it made for an interesting limerick. So those are in here. There are pictures of all sorts of things from the past in black and white. There are some hobby stuff in here as well. A day the circus came to town, a story about the circus. Yeah, all sorts of recipes. I think I read a few of them on Friday. But what I really liked about the recipes is not only were they simple, but there was a story on the back about the recipe. So how about gingered carrots? It tells you how to make them. And then on the back it says, short memory. As a kid, my job was to dig horseradish roots and put them through our meat grinder. Even though I did the job outdoors in the fresh air, the tears ran down my face until I couldn't see. But the tears didn't affect my mother. I had to grind until the job was done. I think we had the strongest horseradishes in the country, and it came from Josephine Bazar, who lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So Robert, in New Mexico, if you're watching this, do you know Josephine? No, probably not. It's a big place, but that's the connection that I know to it. So there are things like that. There are stories about people's first day at school. There are some jokes in here too. Some of them are racier than others. There are also stories about how people met. So how about this one here? In 1938, I was a freshman in college. I was wide-eyed, naive, and lost in that big school. It took an culpable punster to make me feel at home. I'd been accepted as a reporter on the school newspaper, the Echo Weekly. My first assignment was a feature story about an unusually large potato grown by small children in the college training school. I dutifully gathered my facts and then returned to the office to write. After several false starts, the words just didn't seem to come. In frustration, and to no one in particular, I said, "How do you write a story about a potato?" From across the room came a quick response, "Boil it down." That bad pun was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Our 4 years of college went by quickly. After graduation, Bob went to the service and I found a teaching job. We were married at our college homecoming in 1943. Despite all the puns, the past 49 years have been wonderful. And on our golden wedding anniversary, we plan to have a big, elegant dinner party for our friends and family. I have no idea what the menu will be, but I know it will include one elegantly, but absolutely necessary, boiled potato. And that was by Audrey Munger, who lives in Green Valley, Arizona. So interesting stories like that are in here too. There are stories about Victorian houses. I just lost some of my placements. What else do they have here? Can you give me a hand? Okay, here's something. Hopefully I'm putting together a display of some airline memorabilia, such as postcards, posters, schedules, playing cards, glassware, or any other items adorned with airline logos. Any contribution would certainly be appreciated. That was J.R. Ashburn. He gives his full address. He lives in Orlando, Florida. So that's probably the early days of not necessarily postcard collecting, but if you go on to Post Crossing, you have a wish list. Well, this guy is kind of his wish list. He's looking for airline postcards. So, among other things, of course. But that key postcard in the story stuck out to me, so I thought I'd read about it. So, things like that are in this book. What else? I wish my bookmarks hadn't fallen out. But I have this one here. I'm a little lonely. I'm not me, but that's what the title of the section is called, and it's people looking for companionship of some sort. This person writes, I'm a 17-year-old girl who would like to correspond with anyone who lives on Prince Edward Island, Canada. So that stuck out to me. Someone who is looking to talk to someone from here in Atlantic Canada, and or anyone who loves the book of Anne of Green Gables. Of course, Anne of Green Gables is a big book, a big part of Prince Edward Island culture. Lucy Maud Montgomery is the author of it and made Prince Edward Island famous by having Anne of Green Gables from there. And this person comes from Alabama. And so loves Anne of Green Gables, loves the idea of Prince Edward Island. Why not correspond with someone from Prince Edward Island as well? This was one that I thought was funny too. I live in upstate New York, raise and love goats. Would like to hear from others with goats or anyone who enjoys getting mail as much as I do. I'm not crazy about goats one way or the other. I don't no real preference, but we all enjoy getting mail, especially post-crossers. So I thought that stuck out as well. But the main article in here, I can go on and on with all the different articles in here, but there was this one, and it corresponded with some of the postcards that he sent me. So it's called Tall Tales from Tough Times, and if you'll do me the honor, I'm going to read through it, so you get a little bit of story time with Rob here, or story time with that dad guy. It says, after the turn of the century, Americans sent humorous Boast cards by the thousands that stretched truth to the hilt. Have you guys ever heard of Boast cards? Do you know what a Boast card is? Well, you're about to find out, and I do have some examples of Boast cards here, some vintage cards that I will show you that Lamont sent me. So it says, early visitors to America were often struck by the settlers' love of exaggerations. Travelers were regaled with tales of huge animals, incredible weather extremes, and the monstrous fish that got away. Have you ever gone fishing and said, I caught a fish this big, when maybe it was only this big? But that's how your memory perceives it, or maybe the thrill of the weekend of being away, you remember, oh, we had such a great time, and man, the fish we caught. Every year, that story, the fish gets a little bit bigger as the age of our memory grows a little bit longer. It says, the pioneers' fondness for tall tales may have come from the fact that taming the American frontier required a special brand of courage. People survived hardships by developing the ability to laugh at adversity. Mark Twain recognized this when he said, the secret source of humor itself is not joy, but sorrow. Regardless of the source, tough times and tall tales have long been associated with America's past, Canadian past too. A Depression era story told of an Idaho farmer nicknamed Old Jim, who often boasted of his fertile land. One day, a man stopped by and offered to buy 100 pounds of Jim's potatoes. That's my link to that potato story earlier on. Only 100 pounds? Old Jim supposedly asked, scratching his head. No, I can't do that. I wouldn't cut one of my spuds in two for anyone. So he's boasting that his potatoes are each 100 pounds. Wow. Tales by mail. Well, that's what we like, mail. The real golden age of exaggeration came to full flower around the turn of the century. It was then that people were introduced to the world of the tall tale postcards, and what laughable world it was. These pictures features jackrabbits so huge that cowboys appeared to have saddled them and rode like horses. You mean like this one? And I'm going to show it to you again later on, so it's just a quick one. And bass big enough to cover railroad flat cars supposedly were often pulled from local fishing holes. By using photo distortion and enlargement of one part of a picture without enlarging the others, Photos of immense fruit and vegetables were produced, including potatoes too portly to fit on a wagon, 10-ton tomatoes, and ears of corn so cumbersome that teams of horses had to drag them from the fields. People mailed these exaggerated photos across America by tens of thousands. And I'm going to show you some pictures too as we go through here. Why did such a bumper crop of gag postcards spring forth at this time? 2 reasons. For one, the rural free delivery system provided the first reliable mail service to many country folks in 1898. Yay, mail! And a rural telephone service was rare, so people eagerly took advantage of the opportunity to communicate and deliver a chuckle while doing so. So you may not be able to talk to someone regularly on the telephone, but you could send postcards, and maybe you wanted to send a little funny postcard. Secondly, about the same time, technological marvel and revolutionized the way pictures were taken. In 1888, George Eastman had introduced his Kodak camera. By 1902, Eastman's Kodak manufacturing postcard-sized photographic paper on which images could be printed directly from the negative, and that's when professional photographers all over the nation began making their own postcards. Humor sold better. It wasn't long before the discovery that those cards sold much better if they made people laugh. Boast cards became the rage, especially in Great Plains states. William "Dad" Martin of Ottawa, Kansas, was probably the king of the exaggerated postcard makers. In 1909, his Martin Postcard Company was reportedly turning out 10,000 cards per day. They were sold throughout the country. Martin's pumpkins didn't just grow, they erupted from the ground, tearing homes from their foundations. Meanwhile, giant jackrabbits bounded across the prairies, hotly pursued by men in automobiles. There was a good reason why tall-tailed postcards were most popular in the western states. Many settlers had originally come from the west in response to outrageously optimistic claims made by promoters. They'd been sold on a mild climate and plentiful water supply, and convinced that crops sprang up overnight. The soil was so fertile that even footprints would grow. Laughingly at adversity. In reality, life on the plains was considerably tougher than that. After he got a taste of prairie farming, one man quipped, "It could be so hot one day and the corn popped, and so cold the next that a pitcher of water would freeze so fast the ice would still be warm." Faced with the hard times such as these, the people of the plains responded with humor. As a farmer watched his land dry up, he could still laugh about reports that the toll bridge collectors were going broke because cattlemen were driving their animals across the sandy riverbeds. In a land where the promise of riches often turned into poverty, the homegrown humor of the tall-tailed postcards helped people weather tough times. And now, looking back at those cards, provides us with the rare and valuable glimpse into the hearts and spirits of our pioneer forefathers. As serious as life was back then, it's nice to know these gorgeous people tempered it with marvelous sense of humor. So I showed you some images of different postcards. Now let me show you actual postcards that now I have thanks to Lamont. So how about this one here? A farmer who's harvesting the corn in his field. He can only get one cob at a time because they are so huge. You can't beat Iowa corn. I showed you a glimpse of this one. This is saddling up Big Jack. It's not unusual to break these big fellows and use them for ranch work. So you can imagine a jackrabbit so big that it was bigger than a horse. Or finally, this one we've heard a lot about. It's a mythical creature, the jackalope, the fabulous jackalope of North America. Jackalopes are the rarest animals in North America, a cross between a now extinct small deer and a species of rabbit. They are extremely shy and wild. They possess the ability to mimic, and their cries often sound human and tuneful, probably from hearing cowboy songs on lonely night watch. None have ever been captured alive, and this is a rare photo taken at their feeding grounds in the high country. So there you go. 3 examples of real Boast cards that exist that now may go off to someone else, and a story found in a magazine of old, amongst other things too. So Lamont, thanks so much for a trip down memory lane. First of all, there are lots of things in here that are very good to read, some amazing stories. There were some interesting stories too of couples that got together when they were 11 and 12 years old and married by 16. probably happen more frequently in harder times and older times than it does now. Now, when you think of someone getting married at 16, it is way too young. But yeah, it might still work. I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying that there were stories of it in this magazine. I hope you like story time with that dad guy. I've done them in the past. This was great. I am happy when people send me information about things I didn't know. Excuse me. I've heard of jackalopes before. I've heard of some tall tales. I never knew that there was a whole industry of postcards that kind of fed these myths. And now I know why. And now you know why too. So I hope you like this. And thanks, Lamont, for enlightening us. Have a magical week. Oh, before I forget, if you're into stamps, because you're into postcards, let me promote it one more time, at least one more time, and maybe more than that. But Liverpool stamps, if you're into the penny red stamps, you want to get a great deal before the end of the year, go to liverpoolstamps.co.uk, put in the discount code TDG, as in that dad guy, TDG, and you'll get 25% off your order. So I want to promote it because they've given me an opportunity to make a collaboration with them, and I feel special to be able to do that. So TDG, get 25% off the penny red. Now, go do that. Have a magical week. What, Polo? You say like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends?
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?